What's going on, y'all? Another Nolecast here. I'm Bud Elliott. That's Chuck Blunt. That's Nile, Lawrence-Stample, and we are coming to you after having a chance to do a more thorough rewatch of Florida State's loss to the Miami Hurricanes, and we'll also kind of get into kind of where we think we are as a program right now. Maybe a little bit of upcoming pit talk. Probably save most of that for the preview episode coming up. But yeah, guys, I'll open it up. Any thoughts after the rewatch? Have you changed your mind on anything? Anything feel different to you? Just let me have it.
I'm proud they didn't quit. I mean, I think that's important after last year. They showed fight in the fourth quarter, but it's also hard for me to get too excited when 50% of your yards come after you're down 28-3. The game was over, and it never really was competitive after it was 14-3, and that's frustrating. I mean, they had a 75% win probability when they went up 7-3, and it was over 80% when it was 14-3. The game was effectively over at halftime. It never felt like FSU was going to be able to get back in it. So, and even on the rewatch, you still get that feeling like it's just frustrating. And I think it's a clear example of why we always talk about how important recruiting is, particularly in the trenches, because that's where you lost the football game. Like, it's great they took away the run, but when you can't affect the quarterback, that's what happens. You give up 250 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, and your secondary is just getting roasted repeatedly.
Yeah. That was, I would say, after rewatching it and seeing it, it's tough because especially the spiritual and emotional connection I have with this team and with Norvell. I've been able to encounter him and talk with him a few times. I kind of had an epiphany, and it sucks because I feel like the fog is kind of coming out of my eyes because I hear a lot of people talk about the standard. I've heard it time and time again, but I talked with one of my former teammates, and after I talked to him and then I watched the game, and it really kind of clicked for me, especially rewatching it and watching it in real time. I watch it on a very emotional level. I can't even go to like a Miami game. It's really hard for me because I'm so into it. So rewatching it, and after having a new perspective, I realized at that point that we genuinely were never in that game. And where the issue is that the goalpost got moved. And I didn't really realize it. It got moved, and the standard got set to a bar that we should have never let it got to. And the reason why that happened was this situation that we've had with Norvell has been so erratic. It has been erratic. It has been just all over the place. You have a undefeated season that we look like we're building, that we come back and have a historically bad season, and then we go in and we're like, all right, expectations are set. Let's see how we can get back. Recruitment is bad. We win Alabama. It's just been so all over the place that it's really hard to have a really good perspective on what's going on. But that Miami game, rewatching it with a new kind of perspective, I realized watching the talent that Miami had and watching how we looked like we were fighting for our lives from the beginning of the game, and realize that we had no absolute reason being in that game is so demoralizing, and it's very hard to listen. Especially, it's hard to watch it when you're thinking about praising the fact that we were fighting at the end of the game versus Miami. It was just, watching it was just, that was my initial reaction as far as earlier, as far as thinking that we fought this and that, and then rewatching it again. It just, that's my first thoughts on it.
I will say, like, perspective here, Miami might be the best team in the country, right? Like, they're top 3 in national title odds for a reason. Like, that team can definitely go win a national title. So, you've played 2 of the top 4 national title odds teams in about a month's time, and you beat one by 14, and the scoreboard says 6 points to the other. We all know the Miami game was not 6 points close, but also, like, the Bama game could have been bigger. This is a higher variance sport. Now, this is not me trying to make excuses for what you saw on Saturday. That was embarrassing in your home stadium, right? I think most people probably left before. Like, I think most people, shouldn't say most, a lot of folks left that stadium before the comeback even mounted, right? Because they felt it. They realized Florida State was not competitive in that ball game. And this is Florida State. You shouldn't be giving out like participation awards or, hey, congrats for playing hard. Like playing hard,
Thank you.
That should be assumed.
Yes.
However, like in totality, your schedule's been really damn hard so far. You have played 2 of the top 4 national title contenders out there, at least as it's played out, this season. And I mean, Bama pounded a pretty good Vanderbilt team, right? They went on the road and won at like maybe a little bit down, but it's like still very much favored to make the playoff. Still very talented Georgia team. So like that game did happen too. To me, it's like what happens with some of these upcoming games, right? Because, like you can say Miami has more money than Florida State. I think they do. Now, I've also said on this podcast many times, I guarantee you the gap in recruiting skill, and sales is a skill. I guarantee you the gap in recruiting skill between Miami staff and Mike Norvell's staff, and the standard to which Mario Cristobal holds his guys, and the standard to which Mike Norvell holds his guys, that gap is bigger than the money gap.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee it. And I've said it for 6 years. All right. Although money's really only mattered for about like the last 5. Obviously, 6 years ago, you didn't have NIL and stuff. But you absolutely have a massive money edge over all these ACC teams that you play, not named Miami and not named Clemson.
That's the problem.
Now, UVA did get a huge injection of cash this year. Like, we know that. So, like that, but still, and you know what? Look, they played a really good game up there. You lost in double overtime. It happens. It's college football. I don't think anybody expected this team to be dominant. What happens against Pitt? What happens against the Hokies? What happens when you go out and you play out west Stanford? Like, that's kind of how you judge for this team. I said, and we took a lot of crap for it at the time, it was like this was a don't get fired off season for them in terms of how, like, they brought in a lot of guys who had to come in and start. I think it's nuts to expect all these guys to be really, really good. You had to bring in so many because you had screwed up the roster, before. They should have pushed the reset button after 23, but because they got snubbed, I think they had real pressure to run it back and try to keep things together when they probably shouldn't have done so. But I understand and acknowledge. Don't even like all the way disagree with trying to run it back. Maybe the way they tried didn't work. I think it was, we've gone over that many times. I just think it's important to keep perspective a little bit. Like you have played 2 teams that are really pretty freaking good.
I think the issue with me is the personnel. So when you watch the game, it was so in your face. It was so Bain obviously made an amazing play after play after play. But at the same time, it was just all over the field. When we watch and you feel like there's absolutely no way to make an adjustment, because there's no personnel to do it with. Right. It's agonizing, especially from a situation to where Norvell, this is not a new program. Like Norvell's been here, like he's had time. I'm not by any means trying to just like down or badmouth Norvell, because I do personally like Norvell just because of that relationship. But when it comes down to the end of the day, that clock started the second that clock ended during that Miami game. Like we are in it as far as what it looks like going into Pitt. I want everyone to be able to rally. I want to see what Norvell can do, but I think the sheer drastic difference of our personnel on the field versus Miami was the biggest kind of tell for me as far as what the standard should be and what it is right now.
I think also, though, what concerns me is, and this is probably why I'm already upset looking ahead to the Pitt game, is one, we know that he doesn't fix things quickly, right? 4 out of the last 5 years, he has lost at least 3 games in a row. Like, that is a sign that there is no quick turnaround that he is ever able to find. A good example, we heard all about alignment issues for the defense in the Virginia game. What's one of the things that came out of the press conference after this game? More alignment issues, and Norvell talked about how upsetting it is. Like, why is it this?
Do we believe it?
It could be an excuse.
I think it's an excuse. I think it's Tony White not wanting to throw his guys under the bus and say, hey, we physically can't hold up against these guys.
But then the other thing that concerns me is, and this is why I even brought it up in the preview of Miami, but I never really worry about him against the big program. So he's not going to win all those games against the Miamis and the Bamas, but we know that they tend to show up with decent effort. My concern is the guy is 16-16 against ACC teams that he out recruits. We even know he's not a great recruiter, but he has out recruited 30 or in 32 games. He had the better roster, and he's gone 16-16. He was favored in 19 of those and lost 6 of them. Like, it concerns me that he plays down to his competition more often than not.
Yeah.
Whatever the competition is, that's the level of effort you get from his team. If they're a less quality team, his team doesn't play as well. If they're a high quality team, they will play up to it and try to keep the game close and probably cover the spread and lose the game. Like, it's just frustrating to
this
watch
is what I was
it
talking
like
to Nile about on Sunday morning. Like, how does Mike and I think Knob brought up good points. Like, it's really more on some of the player leaders to be like, hey guys, we're not that good. Like, just because we wear this Florida State jersey does not mean that we have some birthright to roll out of bed and beat Pitt. You know, like, we got recruited here when this team went 2-10. It's not like we signed up to go win a national title here. You know, like I said, like, Tommy, stop talking about the NFL, bro. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
You know, like how do you get guys to buy in and focus on, you know, teams 5 through 9 on this schedule? Because you already lost to one of them. You know, although maybe you can argue that UVA is better than you know, one of the top 4. Certainly not roster wise, but maybe team wise. That's been an issue, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Mike Norvell's getting fired, guys. I mean,
I don't
they own
either.
like $50 million.
Like, I don't have
much
delusions of
spending
that.
money on players.
But I do think that you can't. This season can go in the tank if they aren't careful. Like,
well, for sure.
And that's what concerns me is we've seen his teams just not be able to pull out of a nosedive, and I worry that they're going to drop one of the next 2. Because I'll be honest, I don't trust them to go on the road across the country for a 10:30 body clock kickoff time. The guy's 10-13 on the road as is. We know that his teams struggle in road games. Now you're going to ask him to go all the way across the country and kick off that late and try to finish a game when your body thinks it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's asking for trouble, no matter how bad Stanford is.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a little bit different this season just because of the leadership that's in that room. I think there's a lot more leaders than we've had in a while, I would say, at least. I know Travis was obviously a pretty big leader, even though I don't know how vocal he was. I know he was very much a just do it type person, but we have leaders in our locker room. Like, we have leaders. It sucks, again, that conversation, the standard. Like, we're going to a situation to where now we have to compete to see if we're good enough to play in the ACC. Like, that's a hard thing to stomach and like really like take in. And I know there's a lot of other people like me that haven't really been able to like come to terms with this, like as far as like what it is, especially again with the volatility of our losing streak. Like, we lost last year and then we come in and we beat Bama. So it's like, it gives you false sense of security. And it almost makes me feel a little bit like, because I live in Jax, I'm a Jag fan. And it's like kind of like a Trevor, like what, I don't know what is worse. You have a Blake Bortles that comes in and is not very good, and you realize it somewhat early and you get rid of him, or Trevor, who's good and you're like, you're not that good, but you're good enough because you're hopeful, because he has a little bit of promise. And it's like, what is it, slow bleed out, you know? So that's kind of the thing that I'm thinking. But again, what we're doing right now, I think, is a little bit different than last year. I thought we had a lot of lost souls last year. We had a lot of leadership assignments last year. I think this year we have a lot better people appointed to those positions of leadership. I think Tommy will gather the guys. I'll be surprised if we do not come out swinging quickly and hard when it comes to this Pitt game. But again, it's the standard that we're kind of looking at right now. But yeah, we'll see.
It's tough. What's not tough is the decision to call Chad at the legendary team. Chad does such a great job with all the home loans, 600 plus now. Saw Chad there. Obviously, crazy disappointed in the result there of that Miami game. 844 FSU loan is that number to call. Definitely always want to make sure you do that with any of your home loan needs. Chad is just a great supporter of our program, of course, of the Florida State Seminoles football program as well. So, looking at this, I don't think this is like a bad team. Ultimately, it's just not where you want to be in year 6, I think they're on pace to reach most of the reasonable goals, that you set preseason, I guess.
I guess here's the nuance part of it. 8-4 is good for the staff. 8-4 is not good at FSU.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How about that? Yes, a 6-game turnaround for this staff would be an improvement and should be, enough to get people off his back for a year, but it's still FSU and you're in year 6. 8-4 is one of the reasons we got rid of a legend.
Right.
And I just don't. I expected more after the Bama game because the one thing you control is your effort and physicality that you play with. And I think if they wouldn't have lost to Virginia, the Miami game would have been a little easier to swallow. It sucks losing to a rival, but I'm still stuck on losing to that Virginia game in the fashion they did.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part because that feels like Groundhog Day with Mike Norvell. They just don't show up for the games they're supposed to win. For all the hate that James Franklin gets at Penn State, more often than not, until the UCLA game, that guy wins the games he's supposed to. He just doesn't win the big games. And consistency in today's college football of winning those games you're supposed to should be applauded. And I wish Norvell would do that a little more often because it would alleviate some of the stress I go through on game day. Not having to worry, are they going to get embarrassed by a team they've out-recruited by 50 spots in the rankings?
Yeah.
Is there anything positive we took away from this game? Not let's be positive, right? But
yeah,
is there anything like you came away with thinking, okay, they can build upon this?
I thought there were certain players. I was it sucks because there were some issues as far as Kevin Wynn, and he had obviously that encroachment issue, but that's a rookie mistake. I think as far as the Twins, we obviously got a hit as long as they stay. I think Kevin Wynn, what you want to see as a true freshman defensive tackle is coming off the ball. Odell's not going to be mad at you in order for doing anything else. If you get reached a few times, which he did, as long as you're not getting blown off the ball, we can work on everything else. And that did not happen to Kevin at all. He stood guys up. He kept the point of attack. I was very happy to see that, which we very much need on the defensive line, especially when it comes to the run, short yardage stuff. We need guys that can be able to stand guys up. So that was a good positive. Blake Nicholson, I thought, played pretty well. Norvell called him out as well. He had some good pass rushes, and that was good to see. And it's good to see the defense be able to rally. Though we got exposed in the secondary, it was good to see the defensive front be able to stop what it is that's needed from them. And they did. For the most part, if there wasn't some of those turnovers, if there wasn't some of the stuff that we did to ourselves, we did enough on defense in order to be able to create a ball game. We did. There's no reason why there wasn't a ball game because of the defense. So I think that was a positive because when we get into it, especially with let's say Pitt and our offense is playing at half mass and we're looking solid, our defense hopefully should be able to respond. But if our defense crapped the bed and our offense crapped the bed, that would have been really, really tough. But at least there was one side of the ball that was able to respond.
I think that's fair. Chuck, you got anything positive?
I'm trying, but I can't. I'm very frustrated because, and maybe it's because I expected a lot of it. I mean, I didn't have high hopes going into the game. And I just didn't, outside of them not giving up. And I think that's important after last year going forward, that they do continue to give effort and not give up. But schematically, there was I felt like Gus was all over the place. And I felt like Tony had no answers to that pass game. He completely sold out to stop the run, but he wasn't even getting pressure. I think that was probably if you're going to bring 5 and 6 guys, you got to at least hit back, make him move, do something. Yeah. They got 1 sack on the day, and it was after the game was in hand. Beck just had a tea party back there. Their line completely dominated this front, and that's just, it's unacceptable. It just is. You got to be better,
right? I think they the play calling evidence is that you knew that they would like not be good and not be able to do it, right? Like Florida State did not have faith they could block these guys. There's no way you can tell me that with a straight face, given what the game plan was.
Oh no, they lack the personnel for that type of game. They just do. They don't have what it takes. And that was very evident there. And so when you or I or anybody else talks about how important recruiting is, this is the example of why.
This game was a very good example. It was probably it hit me like a ton of bricks. I swear. It was just, yeah, man. Like when you see real talent, because UVA, like, all right, Bama was an anomaly. So that was crazy. And obviously there's good talent on Bama's side, but we're seeing that talent really start to kind of roll, right? It's starting to, you're able to really see it. UVA, not as much. Like there's really just not a ton of crazy talent there. Like there is, but they played really well. Miami, the talent stood out. Like it was blatant. And it's crazy again. It took me, I had to rewatch it and really look at it critically. And it was so blatant, again, not being able to have an answer, not being able to make an adjustment and be like, we have to just live in it.
I think this is also a good example. You can't moneyball defensive line.
You can't.
They have gone out there to try to get, wins in recruiting by signing all these DBs who, by the way, don't even actually play.
Moneyball PR wins.
Yeah. Moneyball the secondary, you have to devote your funds to the defensive line from here on out. And until Mike Norvell realizes that the only way to actually compete for championships is to build your trenches first and then use the portal to supplement the skill positions in your corners, nothing's really going to change. He got lucky that Fisk and Verse were hits. That's not going to be sustainable in the portal. The portal has gotten worse every single year for the last 4 years. The quality that exists in there goes down annually because more and more teams are realizing, hey, retention matters. He's got to get off the cycle. Like, he's a crack addict when it comes to the portal. He runs back there for a fix every offseason, and it's just not going to ever be good enough.
I mean, clearly going in the chat saying they're delaying the inevitable. I look, that's pretty fair. It's also, I don't know if that's the wrong thing to do, right? Like, I don't think you just rip a Band-Aid and pay a $50 million buyout. Like when you can keep, like, Norvell with 18 or 19 or whatever their football rev share number is. I think Yahoo had it in the story that Dellinger wrote, but it's like extremely high. You can tell their rev share is football first, second, last.
It's like 18 million of the 20.
Yeah, like they might spend more on spring football than they do on the other sports combined. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, it's hard to be like legitimately bad when you have that much rev share. So even if some donations do drop off, which obviously they would if people just are disappointed, rev share doesn't drop off, right? So, yeah, I think you keep him around, barring some like disastrous thing. And like Tyler in the we're seeing a lot of people saying, hey, like James Williams is awful, Jerry Wilson is trash. James Williams is not good. He's not a two-way player yet in terms of being able to play run and pass. Jerry Wilson's not trash. Jerry Wilson's a starting level corner in the ACC.
Most corners are going to look bad when your defensive line doesn't get home. You can only cover for so long.
Yeah, like he's not some kind of dominant corner. He's not some like surefire NFL guy, at least not like a high round guy. But again, you tried to portal like 16 starters. If you find one who starts and isn't awful, like I'm considering that a hit. Now, you guys may have a different definition of hit right here, obviously. We kind of talked, before the show. But like Jerry Wilson's not a bust. And no. Jerry Wilson's not played terrible. Guys, he's going up against better, more talented guys.
As I said to you in pre-show, they signed 22 guys out of the portal, and I would declare 6 guys a hit right now. Like, you are getting above and beyond what you could have asked for. Most of those are on the offensive line because, like, Pettibone's been great, Hanson's been good. I think Pettis has been as advertised. Of course, Deuce and Sawchuk have given you all they can and have been productive. But you got a lot of guys that are either incomplete or we're starting to see they just aren't going to cut it. And I think when you're so reliant on the portal, this is what can happen. Like, and then you have to worry about what kind of effort level are you going to get from them when you are 500 in the middle of October, when you are, 6-4 with a trip to NC State and a trip to Gainesville still on the schedule, what kind of effort are you going to get? That's the problem when you go out here and get guys that you haven't brought up in your culture and system.
Yeah, the more guys you have from the portal, the more guys you have from the portal, like I think obviously there's a time and a place for the portal, and I've never been a really big advocate for the portal, but I think there is a time and place. There is great opportunity that can come from the portal, but the more guys you pull from the portal is the more your culture gets diluted. And the more it is hard to bring guys underneath the wings of guys that have been there in order to build around them. So if your team is 60% portal that is starting, everyone is now trying to figure out what the culture is. They're trying to build a new culture. But if you can pull 1 or 2 or 3 guys from the portal and say, you fit here, and here, the people around them will bring them in order to figure out what it is that's happening and the culture that's being built. But the culture that we have is rented. It is rented. We are pulling them in, and hopefully we can keep them. Hopefully hopefully the ones that we don't like will go. It's really definitely not something that's sustainable. I do again like some of the opportunities that can come from the portal, but some of it, especially if you utilize it too much, can 1,000% saturate the quality and the culture, especially at a place like FSU, where you have to fight for what it is that has been the standard there. It's not like some sort of university that's like, hey, like we hope to be good. We hope to what? There is a real standard that the fans want, standard that the culture of the organization needs. So it's like, it's tough. It's tough. The recruiting has to get better. And it just doesn't look like that's something that Norvell has been able to do. What are your guys' thoughts as far as being able to turn that corner? It seems like he's done this past season as well as during this season as far as being able to play young guys and other things. What are your thoughts as far as, do you see that or having even a possibility of increasing over the next year or so?
I crunch a lot of recruiting numbers, and there's no history that you can go, a guy who wasn't a top 10 recruiter all of a sudden becomes one in year 6 or year 7. You kind of are what you are at this
point. You live it or you don't.
Yeah, and he he can bring in all the assistant coaches he wants and turn it over until he demands that they live, breathe, and die on the recruiting trail like Jimbo did or like Mario does down in Coral Gables. It's not going to change. Those guys have to live in the office and be on the phones at all time and build relationships. And I just don't see this staff, no matter who he hires, ever being that way, because Norvell doesn't strike me as that type. And unfortunately, he doesn't have anything to sell. How many high school kids has he actually developed that he can go to another high school kid and go, you see him? This is what we did for him in 3 years while he was in Tallahassee. That doesn't exist, because they go out and portal over those kids as soon as they sign them. Like it's this awful, vicious cycle that they sign some decent kids, they never develop them, they leave through the portal, and their growth has already been stunted because they sat here for 2 years never getting used, and they bring in these portal guys and a few hit, but most of them don't. And then you just rinse and repeat over and over. So I have no faith he's going to all of a sudden start signing top 10 classes and up the talent level. Plus the talent he does have, he loses to inferior teams with. Like it's not like this is the 35th or 50th best roster in college football. Depending on where you look, whether it's looking at pure talent acquisition or you look at what the team talent composite says on 247, this is a top 20 roster in the country.
Yeah.
On paper, it is top 20. It plays like the 51st ranked roster in the country, but on paper, it is talented. It may be overloaded at positions here and there, so it's not as well pushed out across all positions as it should be, but this roster doesn't lack talent relative to who they play week in and week out. With the roster they have, 8-4 should be the floor, not something we applaud them for after a 2-10 season. They should win 8 rolling out of bed with the roster they have, but they can't even do that, and that's the most frustrating part.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think 8-4 has got to be considered a success line here, but like you do spend a hell of a lot more money than Pitt. You spend more money than UVA. Like, you spend a lot more. Like, if you lose to Stanford, they need to fire Mike on the tarmac like they did Lane Kiffin that one time, man. Like that. But like, you're not going to lose to Stanford. I'm pretty sure of that. Especially nothing Stanford already beat Louisville.
Dude, Penn State lost to UCLA. I'm not saying never. This season's already getting weird, man.
That's true. Yeah. And I don't think you fire him at 7-5. Right? I just think you keep spending.
No, I think the only way he gets fired this year is the wheels completely come off. He loses to Pitt, and then he loses to
team.
Yeah, like if he goes 6-6 or 5-7, I think you have no choice but to find a way to do it. But if he wins 7 or more games, he's coming back for 2026. And given what that schedule is, you may as well let him wear it and not make a new guy walk into just a terrible situation, because the schedule's by ACC standards is quite loaded next year, and they could legitimately go 4-8 if they're not prepared and they are a bunch of new portal guys again, because unfortunately that is probably the reality situation. They're going to portal the offensive line again. You're going to have to learn on the fly again.
That was disappointing. That like you move Medley to tackle. Like none of the guys.
Where's Lucas Simmons?
Ready. Yeah, like that. That's a really bad sign, man. That none of the young corners are playing.
Yeah,
like that. That spells doom. But not short term, just long term.
Yeah, there was one thing that I've always been asked, hey, do you want to are you thinking about maybe coaching? Would you want to coach is possibly in college or something like that, and try to actually do a coaching assistant and do that stuff? And one reason why I never wanted to coach, or I never even considered it, was because we had just wrapped up the season in 2013, and I want to say it was 2015. We had just wrapped up the season, and we're about to go into bowl season, and I want to say it was the day after the game. It was the day after our last game. I guess we played Florida, and I'm telling you, the day after, I'm like, damn, it's been a long season. I'm tired. Like, I'm ready to get a little break before the bowl season. I call Coach Odell and I'm like, hey, what's good? I wanted to meet him out and talk with him about something. And he was like, hey, like I'm at Thompson recruiting. I'm like, you're recruiting right now?
Day after the Florida game. That's recruiters live and breathe it.
I'm like, you're recruiting right now? That was probably the third time that happened. I don't think it really registered in my mind until then. I was like a senior, but I was like it kind of reminded me sophomore year, junior year, calling him and being like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, hey, I needed to talk with you, and you're at someone's house. It kind of came to a point where I was like, there's no way I could do that, just because the amount of he was constantly recruiting. And I'm like, yo, this is our one day. I've seen you for about 35 days in a row. Like, you have worked 35 days in a row. We all just got a day off, and I'm calling you, and you are recruiting. But that's what it was. When I got recruited, Odell was there all the time. Jimbo came to my house multiple times. Eddie Grand was a phenomenal recruiter. They recruited the crap out of me. And I was like, yo, I'm coming. Like, I'm coming. I'm coming, but still, Mark Stoops was at my games. Like, they recruited the crap out of me.
They had dogs on the trail on that original staff. Like, that's how they flipped it from what we always call the lost decade to a championship team, because Eddie, Mark, Jimbo himself, they all were constantly recruiting. That's all they did. Like, and for all the issues I had with the way Jimbo ran games at times and some of the losses he suffered, that man knew how to evaluate and bring in talent. And that's the one thing I missed the most since he left. Is I knew we were always going to have talent on the defensive line. I knew there was always going to be talent, a good enough talent on the offensive line that he's going to be able to run his stuff. Mm-hmm. And all I had to ever worried about was, is he going to run a passing scrimmage against Wake Forest or Virginia and us get into a dumbass game in the fourth quarter that we could lose? Other than that, I mean, it's hard to argue with 83-23.
Yeah.
He lost 16 games in ACC play in 8 years. Mike's lost 22 in 5+. It took until the 133rd game FSU played in ACC play to lose 22 games, and Mike has managed to do it in 42. This conference isn't good.
Yeah.
That's my problem. That's why I'm so irritated is because it's not like he's playing in the SEC. Jeff Cameron made a hilarious point today. Maybe that's where we need to go because he doesn't seem to have a problem beating LSU or Alabama, but he sure as hell can't beat the average ACC team, and that's what's the most frustrating thing of it all.
Yeah, you can't be doing the floor and ceiling problem, right? Like James Franklin, up until this last weekend, basically never loses games they shouldn't lose at Penn State. They also are a reliable loser as an underdog. Like when you take, like when Penn State, which has a very good roster, when they're underdogs, they just don't win, right? Like Vegas gets that right, and they almost always win as a favorite. Now, granted, you could say, but they just lost to UCLA. The sport's different. It is, and man, like to Mike's credit, I'm not trying to run the guy down here. Like the sport has changed a lot since Mike got hired. Like, the COVID thing was extremely weird. Obviously, had a bunch of stuff going on. Kind of had a bean counter as an AD for a little bit at that time, and then some kind of restructuring back there within the program. All the construction. They're like certainly not just a normal situation to come into, really for anybody. But he's overseen quite a bit of it during the changes in the sport. I don't think they're screwed this year. I don't. Like maybe I'm not trying to be a blind optimist, but like you play a lot more worse teams to finish the year than you played so far in terms of
And that's why it could be a lot like 2022. Remember, we got to play a bunch of backup quarterbacks down the stretch after the 3-game losing streak. Maybe that's exactly the remedy this team needs, is a bunch of average to very bad teams. But the history still exists, and that's what concerns me. I'll feel better if they go and they end the skid on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But his history says that there's a very real chance it's not going to end, and that's what already has me worked up.
Yeah. And I think Tommy I think just when you look at the personnel that we have as far as it being elite, whether it's being leadership roles, I think so. But to your point, Bud, the landscape is completely different with Norvell being here. Like it's completely different. He is trying to figure out like what's going on. You have coaches that have created dynasties retire within a year. You have coaches that are leaving the sport because it is so different. It is hard. Some of these coaches are trying to figure it out. Some of them are having harder times than others. You have some of these coaches that are going to mentors that are like, I don't know what to really tell you because there's so many different variables in place right now that I couldn't even bother trying to figure it out. So there is a lot going on there, and we'll see if he can figure it out at least to get us in a good spot. But again, I think that the proof's in the pudding as far as what the recruiting aspect of things are. That has not really changed. As far as the NIL and being able to go into your bag and be able to pay, that has changed. But as far as recruiting and going into someone's house and telling their parents and their mother and their father that we will come and take care of your son and develop him into a player that you will be proud of and that can go to the league and make you and your brothers and sisters a lot of freaking money. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. Jimbo sat across my table and I'm like, yo, listen, hey, coach, you don't have to come by. Like, it's fine. I just saw you like not too long ago. He's like, no, I'm coming. Like, I'll be by just to hang out for a little bit, 15 minutes. He's sitting on my table just chilling. I can see his eyes are bloodshot red because he's recruited so much. And he's just sitting at the table. He's just like, yeah, man, just talking. And I'm like, coach, you need to go home. Like, you got to go home. You're tired, bro. Like, I am fine. Like, I love Coach Eddie Gran was a absolute dominant recruiter. Yeah. So it's like, again, looking back at the past and looking at what it is that we have now, being a part of a number 1 or number 2 recruiting class when I came out and the guys that came with me, just seeing how everyone, it was just, yeah. And then also seeing Jimbo cry on ACC Network has kind of fired me up a little bit too. That was crazy. I've seen him cry a couple times, but that was crazy. But yeah, all in all, it was just Miami game was an eye-opening game. I like our future. I like at least these next 3 to 4 games. Obviously, there's going to be one in question, but I think we pull through as far as being able to get some wins just because the leadership that we have. When you look at Tommy does not look like someone. He has 11 brothers and sisters. Like, he does not look like someone who's going to roll over and say, oh well, we tried. He does not look like that guy. He doesn't. He looks like he is going to drag himself across the end zone in order to try to figure it out. And he's going to hopefully bring some guys with him. And
I just hope he doesn't play hero ball, though. Like, that's my only concern.
No.
Like,
I agree.
But
I don't want him to try too hard.
I don't know you need him to in some of these games, right? Like, you probably need him to play hero ball and have it work against Miami. And it just didn't work. Like not hero ball totally outside the scheme. And Tyler says, like, Tommy thinks he's elite. Pretty much all good athletes do. Are some of them a little delusional? Yeah, for sure. But, like, he's still a very nice fit to this system. You got outgunned player wise on Saturday. Like, they care about recruiting more than you do. They work harder at it than you do, and it showed. And it's not something you can't reverse 4 or 5 years of getting your butt beat on the recruiting trail in one night due to trying. Like I don't need Tommy to not have self-confidence, right? And I do think he's a good fit in this offense, and I do think you probably want him back next year if he gets that extra year, right? Like, he's not a draft guy, I don't think. Yeah, like Chuck, I think you got to make sure this team has really good congruity. Congruity HR Solutions, of course, are somebody you guys should be checking out for all of your business needs, whether that's HR, payroll, healthcare, whatever it is you need to optimize your business. Hit up our partners at Congruity. Over 10 Nolecast businesses have done so. Graham's also sent them a bunch of business as well. Of course, their links are right there in the show notes. Just check it out below this episode. So, man, I think you said, like, winning the games you should win. Like, Miami is not a game this year that you should win, right? I mean, Chuck, you picked them to lose by 10, right? Or 11?
Oh, yeah, 11.
I had 33-31. I don't think many of us thought we were going to go out and pound Miami. Miami pounding you is a more likely result than you pounding Miami.
Yeah. I'll feel a lot better if they go beat Pitt and they beat Stanford and they beat Wake Forest. You roll into Clemson at 6-2, I'll feel better about this season and what we've seen.
Yeah, you turn it at 8-4.
You have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You go 8-4 and you say, all right, Mike, 2026 is a real prove-it year. It's a hard schedule. You can wear it and we'll see you later, or you can, actually overachieve for once. Well, twice, actually. They definitely overachieved in 23, relative to expectations. But, like, I don't think you could sit here and say 8-4, that's a disappointment. Like, the sequence, you can't let the sequencing of when the wins and losses come be, like, the deciding factor in how you choose your emotions. If they had lost to Miami in this fashion to open the year and then they beat Alabama, is your opinion of the team really that much different? I guess narratively it could be, in terms of some people think, like, oh, teams get way better as the season goes on, but that you are what your talent level is and how well you mesh.
Is that the case still with the portal? Like, you would think that.
Can you mesh more?
As far as back in the day, as far as, like, just regular, you come in and you develop, sure. But, like, with the portal, you kind of have to mesh with these guys. You kind of have to learn and know that when your back's against the wall, you're going to do it,
I think, though, in the portal era, it seems like if you're portal heavy, you either are what you are or you get worse as the year goes on. I can't think of a lot of portal. I don't think FSU got better in 2023 and they were portal heavy. Like, if you compare them to where they were early in the season when they smashed LSU to what they were by the time they went to Pitt, and even before JT got hurt, that team declined throughout the season. Like, they peaked probably at Clemson, and then it just – part of it was the injuries. I mean, Jaheim Bell was hurt. Keon was hurt most of the year. The offensive line was patchwork at times, but they didn't get better as the season went on. They just kind of stayed the same and started to dip as they got into the final 3 or 4 weeks of the season. I don't think the only Norvell team I would actually say got better as the year went on is 2021. They started 0-4 and they had a chance to go to a bowl by the time they got to Gainesville. And that's the only team I felt like actually, like, had a slow burn going up as on trajectory as the entire season went on. Most of his teams have been the same or declined as we've progressed through the schedule. It kind of is what it is. And some of that is a lack of depth. So you do have to deal with injuries as often. When you don't have 50 guys you can trust and you only have 27 or 30, it's going to be hard. It's a battle of attrition in this sport. And so I think that plays into it. But yeah, I'd say 2021 is really the only team that progressively got better throughout the season. And I mean, that was his, some want to call that year one because most people call COVID the year zero for him. So, I mean, that's the one team that I would say did get better throughout the year. But I don't think that's a Norvell problem. I think Ole Miss is very portal heavy, and Lane's teams tend to fizzle out in late October and into November. Like, I'm curious to watch them now. They're number 4 in the country, but will they keep building, or will they go through the normal downturn that Lane's teams have? I mean, look at them. They blew a playoff chance last year in Gainesville when it was right there for the taking. Like, that's what happens with some of these portal teams, it seems like.
I will say Ole Miss also like engineers their schedule to be undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like they play nobody in the non-con with the express purpose of going 4-0, basically. All right, so can you win the games? You should win.
That's what we're going to find out, because they're going to be double-digit favorites in every game except Clemson and Florida.
Yeah, for sure, and should be.
Yes, and when you're talking double-digit favorites, we're talking 75-plus win probability. You are supposed to win these games the vast majority of the time. So flip the script, man. Go do what you're supposed to do, because unfortunately that hasn't been the history. And you do that, you all of a sudden you have 8, 9, maybe even 10 wins as a possibility, because with the more you win, the more confidence this team's going to gain. But the more adversity they experience, quit watch becomes a real thing as we get into late October and into November. That's what you have to fight against. It's one or the other. One extreme or the other is how this team is going to probably finish.
Yeah. Which is,
that's the volatility we deal with in the portal era.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so Khalil saying, guys, honestly, like I think if you're Florida State, you probably want that in some ways, right? Like you don't want to just keep guys around who aren't playing.
Yeah. If you can get money off the books, I mean, this is like the NFL. Like,
and you need to stop investing so much in tight end and an offense that doesn't use it very much.
Tight end and corners that they don't actually use.
What a money suck that is. Yeah. Like also like that's, but again, I mean, Chuck, to your point, how do I say this? Some of the PR recruiting, right? To say you got to win at the non-premium positions, it's not a fraud roster. It's actually a pretty damn good roster within the scope of the whole sport. It's just you do play 3 teams every year who take talent acquisition really seriously. And generally you're going to play one kind of heavy in the non-con in addition to Florida as well, at least if the pattern holds. So you got to start taking that seriously. Or at some point somebody will. You guys got anything else?
Nope.
No.
All right. See if we can beat Pitt. We'll preview it later this week.
Let's go.
See you guys.